kind of the best lighting that I've had, like, ever. It's kind of cute. Okay, so hello. Today is just a random day. This, as usual, is a very impulsive video. Just decided to film it about 15 minutes ago. My room is absolutely overflowing with books. Like, it's kind of getting scary. It's getting a little bit worrying at this point. So here behind me, we have my main bookshelf. It is a Billy bookshelf, as pretty much everyone's is. And I only have one because I don't really ever want to get to the point until I am like a very financially secure adult with like a house. I don't really care to get to the point of having a library that is like multiple bookshelves. It's just a little bit overwhelming to me personally. I think that's perfectly acceptable for everyone else. I love seeing rows and rows of Billy bookshelves behind everyone else, but for me, that is not personally something that I want for myself. So I have this one bookshelf, and I also have a little table next to it where I stash some books as well. They're just everywhere. They're taking over, quite frankly. I need to find a way to fit all of my books onto this shelf. We are going to go ahead and do a bookshelf reorganization, but with a plan. Every time I do a bookshelf reorganization, I never go into it with a plan. So I kind of just start taking books off of the shelf and throwing them on my bed, and then I get really overwhelmed and I kind of just start shoving them on to like clean up the mess faster. We are going to go ahead and do like a little recap of how my books currently are, and then we're going to go ahead and do a reorganization and kind of craft a plan before we start taking books off of the shelf. Yeah. Okay, so just to kind of give you a closer look on what we are working with here, this, I actually just got this today. This is the Illumicrate Song of Achilles and Circe Madeline Miller box set. I got this just because like it really matches my aesthetic, my personal aesthetic, with the green and the gold and everything, and just kind of like the imagery. It's kind of the aesthetic that I have established for myself, so I just went ahead and bought it because it's really, really beautiful. So then we're moving. Please ignore the cords and the everything. Like we are going to severely clean this up, like literally right now. There's a random picture on the floor of me and Tom Holland. Just go ahead and ignore that. So this table right here that I have next to my bookshelves, I got from Five Below. And it was just like a very, very simple little table to build, and it just is like kind of perfect to put right there. This table, I end up putting a lot of my new books on, or just books like that I recently acquired, recently bought. I have one library book right here. I have the rest of my library books on the floor right here in front of my bookshelf, and then also one Arabic study book that I just bought, very randomly placed here. I also have in the back, as you can kind of see right there, I have some of my old books that I definitely don't want to get rid of, but I just don't know where to put them. Like, they don't really belong anywhere on my shelves. I also have some historical romances right there that my sister-in-law gave to me to read, and I haven't been reading them until very recently. So moving on to my main bookshelves, up here on the top shelf we have my Rick Riordan universe shelf. Just kind of have scattered all of these Rick Riordan books from all the different series. I don't have all of the books in every series just yet, but it is coming along. I also have this Tom Holland Spider-Man Funko Pop, and it's really cute. He's holding a phone and doing a peace sign. I also have, very, very randomly, my bowl of crystals. I'm gonna put them on my window next to my succulent. So now the second shelf on my bookshelf is a bit of like a YA fantasy shelf. I think every single one of these on here is YA fantasy, and it's also kind of a favorites shelf until we kind of get like to Legendborn. Well, we have Sorcery of Thorns and Enchantment of Ravens. Those are favorites, but I haven't read any of those other ones right here, so definitely need to get to those. And we have Katara and Zuko. They just kind of encapsulate that like a YA fantasy romance for me, so yeah. Then we have my third shelf, which is my Leigh Bardugo, Holly Black, and Cassandra Clare shelf. I don't know why I always group them together on my shelves, but they just kind of belong together. I don't know. They're all best friends and everything, and their books kind of give me like similar vibes. So yeah, and then I have this candle that has a bunch of different bookmarks in it. We have Gem at the forefront. Gem just sits pretty right there. Moving on to this next shelf, it is kind of my like miscellaneous fantasy sci-fi shelf. I have most of my like adult fantasies on here, and then mixed in with a couple of YA fantasy and sci-fi. I don't really love the look of this shelf, but I think the vibes that it gives are kind of accurate for the genre. Like it's kind of just all over the place. And then I have my Poe Dameron Funko Pop right here because he is my favorite Star Wars character. And then I have one of my favorite Marvel characters, Bucky Barnes. This second to bottom shelf is where things kind of get really messy right here because this is my like contemporary shelf. I have a lot of adult and YA contemporary stories on here, also some romances because I kind of just group those together, and then some new books right here just laying about. This bottom shelf is for mostly like literary fiction, and also some contemporary, some poetry, and like the odd fantasy that I just didn't have anywhere else to put. This is very like, since it's the bottom shelf, it's kind of usually the last one that I do, and I don't know, I just kind of throw things on it and hope for the best and just put like the stragglers on this shelf as well that I didn't have space for on other shelves. And yeah. Okay, so right off the bat, like my plans so far just from like going through the shelves and everything, I definitely want to do something different with this top shelf. I don't think I'm really utilizing all of the space since this is one of my bigger shelves, and the reason why I put this shelf on there is because I have this really big Percy Jackson illustrated edition book right here, and it only fits on the shelves that are that big, which is only 2 of them. So I either need to move some of these shelves around a little bit and like kind of make the distance more equal, or like, I don't know, I need to do something. I'm also thinking that I definitely need to do something different with this whole situation right here. Even though I kind of like that shelf, like I definitely feel like I could just be doing something different with those books. What's really difficult is going to be all of my YA on these 2 shelves right here. I even have more of them that just didn't fit. This is definitely the genre that I own the most of, and I always just want to group them together, but they just kind of end up on these 2 shelves and I just don't really know what else I can do with them. And lastly, I think that I want to, instead of just like dumping all of my newly acquired books on this table and like hoping for the best, I think I want to make it kind of like a display table for either some of my contemporaries or classics, or even just like a literary fiction table right there, like a little display. I don't know. It's kind of like a cute little area where I have this plant. So like I kind of want some more of the colorful books, but I'm not sure yet. We are just going to have to see. Okay, so I just finished this first shelf right here, and this is what we have right now. I think looking at it on the camera, I still need to kind of mess around with the color coordination and everything that's going on with that. But I kind of just put like all of my really big books on this shelf, like all of the graphic novel volume collections, whatever you want to call it. And I kind of put all of my sci-fi books in an interesting order here. Not necessarily color coordinated, but like they kind of flow together in some form or fashion. That is what we have right now, and I kind of like it like that. It just, like I said earlier with the other shelf, it just kind of fits the vibe of the genre. It's just kind of all over the place, and it doesn't really need to be completely like neat looking and everything. So I need to kind of mess around with the order that they're in, but we are going to go ahead and move on to the second shelf. I think we're gonna go ahead and continue on with like the adult books or that like fantasy sci-fi theme. I'm gonna go ahead and put a lot of my adult fantasy books on this shelf. Okay, I can't even lie to y'all. It has been a little while since I filmed the first part of this video, but most importantly, I have kept the results of my bookshelf reorganization, and I actually really like how it turned out. I think this is like really the best that I can do with what I have right now, and I think it turned out really interestingly. So let's go ahead and go over there and take a closer look at what I came up with. Okay, so starting up here at the top, this is the top shelf that I decided would be kind of like my graphic novel, comic book, sci-fi, kind of fantasy shelf. So I decided to put all of them up here. So we have the Avatar ones, and then we kind of just go into smaller graphic novels and comics, and then go to novels, which I have like most of my sci-fi books on here and everything, and then we kind of go back up to those graphic novel, illustrated whatevers. These shelves always just give me the vibes of like the sci-fi section at Half Price Books, so I think for that, like, it definitely has a certain vibe to it, and I like it. I think it's good. I think it's kind of the best that I can do right now. So then we're moving on to the second shelf here. And this, as you can see very clearly, is like mostly my adult fantasy shelf. So I just have a lot of these books with like the black covers, and then kind of going into some of the more colorful ones. A lot of black and red on this shelf, and black, red, and white. And yeah, I think this shelf has definitely a theme. Like, does it give aesthetically? It gives something. It definitely gives something. What exactly does it give? I don't know yet, but there's something there for sure. And then moving down is my Riordan verse shelf, where obviously I just kind of stacked my Rick Riordan books a little bit differently, but then I also added my Madeline Miller special edition books that I got from Illumicrate. This is really like the only place that I could really think to put them, but honestly, I think they look good there. Like, they kind of fit the theme and everything, and they look really good next to The Lost Hero and then these editions of Percy Jackson. So I think those definitely work there, at least for now. And then moving down to my YA fantasy shelf. Now this is definitely something. This was definitely a feat to kind of fit most of, if not almost all of my YA fantasies onto one shelf. And I kind of cleverly did like that double stacking thing. I guess you could call that clever. I honestly kind of like this shelf. Like, it's different. You know, like sometimes you just have to find new ways to stack things to make them fit. And I think this one worked quite well, in my opinion. Y'all probably think it looks like shit, but I feel like it works. And then going down to these last two shelves, they did not change much. Like, I'm sorry to say, but these two shelves down here, it's gonna take a lot for me to change them completely, because like, they just gotta stay there for now. I don't know what else to do with these books, and I kind of like cycle them out sometimes and, you know, put some of them up there on other shelves, but like, I just have so much sci-fi fantasy and then very little of other genres, so they just kind of get thrown to these bottom shelves until someday when I have more than one Billy bookshelf, which hopefully is not going to be anytime soon. And then my favorite part of the reorganization probably is this little table. I just really like the way that it came out. I really like the books that I picked right here. I picked my classics collection of these editions of the classics books that I got from Half Price Books. I've kind of been collecting them, and I think I have all of the Jane Austens. I have Wuthering Heights there, Dorian Gray, and those are really the classics that I'm most interested in, so those are the ones that I have in those really pretty editions. And then I just have my bowl of crystals on top. And then, of course, to be able to fit those YA fantasies onto one shelf, I kind of just had to find a different place for these Cassandra Clare books. Infernal Devices, some of the Dark Artifices, the books in that series that I actually like, which are the first two. And then Ghost of the Shadow Market, Clockwork Angel, and this edition that I have of the Arabian Nights, or 1001 Nights, actually translated by an Arab, which was kind of hard to find because the most popular translation of these works are by a white man. So definitely a really good find. So that is the bookshelf reorganization. I actually need to log out of work right now. Hope you enjoyed this very casual bookshelf reorganization. I feel like I always call my videos casual. All of my videos are casual. I'm a casual person. But anyways, hope you had fun watching that happen. And let me know if you like the shelves. Let me know if you hate them. Yeah. See you in my next video. Bye.